a herd mentality, a lemming-like mentality. If you don't go with the flow, you're anti-American and therefore a suspect.
The Tony Jones Show, featuring punk, rockabilly, psychobilly, and Providence, Rhode Island's finest, starts right now.
He's a dangerous militia member, I hear. Oh, and there she blows.
Friends, the time for mediocrity and broadcasting is over. My name is Tony Jones, and you are tuned in to the Tony Jones Show, your destination for talk and rock. This is normally where I say, with me as always is my co-host, Mr. George Garner, but George Garner is currently on assignment. He will be back in the hot seat, in his co-host seat, the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson next week, but until then, he is currently on assignment. I want to thank you all for the positive feedback and for tuning in for our big New Year's Eve broadcast. People from all over the globe tuning in live to little old, well, not little, I'm not little, but I'm old, little old Tony Jones right here on the air, over the airwaves, over the internet. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And, of course, don't forget to check out rifreeradio.org. I will rebroadcast our New Year's Eve extravaganza over on rifreeradio.org by popular demand. And, of course, you can go to tonyjones.org for a podcast so you can listen on demand when it's convenient for you. Don't worry about scheduling. Just listen when you want. Now, I was reluctant to rebroadcast a New Year's Eve broadcast because usually when you do a broadcast like that, it's like a one-off thing. You know, like people this year could really give two craps about what happened last year. But people want to hear it again, so it will be available at rifreeradio.org. Tony Jones here. You are tuned in to The Tony Jones Show. Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. On Twitter @TonyJonesNRI. That's where you can talk to me, chat with me, tweet to me throughout the program. Huge show. See, one of my New Year's resolutions for this program was to have more filmmakers on the Tony Jones Show. So, being a man of my word, my first in-studio guest for this new year is filmmaker Nick Cacciari. Nick, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Tony.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you. I'm honored to hear I'm the first filmmaker of 2014.
Hopefully in a long line. But what I've noticed, Nick, is that filmmakers are shy. A lot of filmmakers that I have met personally are shy. So I really have to get them in here and draw it out of them. But I think we talk about a lot of positive things, new businesses, new bands, new venues coming up. And I have seen filmmaking, of course, like everybody else, just explode in the region.
Yeah, it's funny. For such a small state, you know, we have a very thriving indie film scene around here. It's very non-competitive. There's a lot of filmmakers in the area, and everybody is sort of, helps everybody else out. There's a couple of good organizations. There's the Rhode Island Film Collaborative, and then the Rhode Island South Filmmakers Group, where, you know, people network and, you know, get in touch with other filmmakers and, you know, help each other out. It's really, it's something that, it's kind of surprising. You know, I kind of got into it a few years ago, and when you get into it and you just realize it, there's a lot going on around here.
I struggled a few years back with the idea of myself personally joining SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. Then I realized if I joined SAG, I wouldn't be able to dress up and be in all my buddies' films.
Yeah, when you get into SAG and the different unions, there are a lot of regulations and that sort of thing about if you're in SAG and appearing in non-union productions, and it can get a little tricky at times. So.
First, you got to get caught. I mean, but
well, this is true. This is true. And in fact, you read books. Just speaking on that, Bruce Campbell, the actor, wrote a book a few years ago, an autobiography, and he talks about back in the day when they made Evil Dead and everything. Friends of theirs who were members of SAG but would appear in their films, right. And they would appear under aliases and stuff like that, so that they didn't get caught. Like you said, you'd be different aliases.
Which is perfect for your latest film, American Luchador, because if you're in SAG and you want to be in this film, I'm guessing you could just put on a Lucha Libre mask. Right?
You know, that's true.
I mean, that could be Alec Baldwin. And,
it really could. I hadn't thought of that, but we could probably put anybody in a mask and we would never know who they were.
I used to have a masked character. But because I am so easily identifiable, my masked character was actually called Not Tony Jones.
Yeah, you kind of stand out in the crowd.
So you talked about all these great groups. Talk about how you personally decided, Nick Cacciari, I'm going to become a filmmaker.
Well, you know, I've always loved films and movies. I am 42, so I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s, so that was a really, I kind of came of age at the sort of the end of the drive-in theaters. There was a great one in East Greenwich we used to go to, the Hilltop Drive-In, all the time. And then as VCRs were becoming, everybody had one, and you could go up to every 7-Eleven, every corner store would rent VHS tapes. So growing up in that time, it was like there was an abundance of access to movies. You know, we would go, friends and I, we would go up to the local video store, the mom and pop video store, and just rent tape after tape after tape.
And there was a video store on every corner.
There was. So that that's sort of when my love for movies started back then. As I got older, I got into comic books, and I wrote comic books for several years. Some independent books, some very small publishers. I would make the rounds to different comic book shows, and I'd have a little table there, and selling my various independent books, and self-published a lot of zines through the mail, things like that. And then a few years ago, there was a screenwriting contest that was held locally, and I. Having come from writing comic books, I said this might be pretty cool. So I wrote a screenplay and ended up as a finalist in it. I didn't win, but it sort of gave me that sort of confidence. Wow, maybe this is something I can pursue. And then things just sort of I got involved with a couple of different things. I did a PSA and things just sort of. And as I said, when I started getting into these organizations and finding out what was going on in the community, it just sort of went from there.
Probably talking about access to films, and probably my regular listeners are just completely sick of hearing this story. However, in those prime days of a video store on every corner, a friend of mine came to me and he said, if you'd like to invest, I have this new business venture. It's going to be a vending machine for movies. And I said, dude, that is stupid. I would just be throwing my money out the window. I don't think so. And so that later turned out to be Redbox, and then he sold it to Coinstar, and now he's not on AM radio, that's for sure. He's doing quite well for himself.
Redbox, they're kind of all over the place. And just speaking, on that, Redbox, I know they do original material,
right?
A filmmaker friend of mine was contacted and about doing something for Redbox, an original thing, and it just is a commentary on nowadays the access to get your stuff seen, whether it's on online or something like a Redbox or something like Netflix original or cable TV. There are so many venues to have your work out there that I think that's why there's probably a boom in filmmaking, because it's just accessible to everyone.
That's
now.
what we've been talking about in broadcasting over the last few years, and I kind of straddle the medium of being over the air and being available online and on iTunes and on Spreaker and just wherever you can find audio content. I'm there. And I came to realize a few years ago that pretty much the actual being over the air thing is almost like just for me, because I'm a radio nerd. I think it's just like in film, we're going to see that kind of. People are going to have Wi-Fi in their car. They can already listen on their cell phones.
You're right. I think there was an interview or an article I saw online not too long ago, and Steven Spielberg was talking about the future of cinemas. Going to cinemas to see movies. Yeah. We don't know if how long that's gonna last, because, like you said, everything is on demand at your fingertips in your house, and there are filmmakers, who are just a couple years ago. Kevin Smith released a film, Red State, and it didn't even go to cinemas. It was released online and everything like that. He's just foregoing the Hollywood system.
I consider myself a bit of a film buff, but I think the only reason that I will go to the actual physical brick and mortar cinema is when my girlfriend just nags me beyond belief to take her to the quote-unquote movies.
I understand that, but I still get some enjoyment out of it. I like to go and sit in the theater and have the lights come down and my very first time in a movie theater, I was 6 years old. It was the summer of 1977, and I saw Star Wars in a movie theater. And there was something magical about that as a kid. The lights come down, the screen opens up, it's larger than life on that, and I still get a little enjoyment out of that. I still like to go and sit in the theater, and of course these days now you have to deal with people texting on their phones and everything during the movies. But
I think
still,
part of the problem for me personally is that I'm painfully cheap. So I remember when movies hit $8 and people, nobody's gonna spend $8 on a movie. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Just this past Christmas, a couple weeks ago, my grandfather, who's 90 years old, gave me a pack of movie passes. That's the greatest thing ever, because you don't have to worry about that.
I'm going to spin some tunes now. I have just probably one of my favorite local songs. I've been playing this every week because I love it so much, and if I were a dancing man, I would dance to this tune. But after we spin some music, we'll have more with filmmaker Nick Kachuri. This is Libretta Suede and the Motel 6. It's Do the Savis Dance.
I
Tony Jones here. The Tony Jones Show continues. TonyJones.org is my website. On Facebook, facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. And I am on Twitter at Tony Jones NRI. And thank you all for checking in on Twitter. Those of you who catch the live show, I always interact throughout the program on Facebook and Twitter. So if you're listening to the podcast, I do appreciate that. But you should check out the live show and interact with me live on the radio. We just heard from Tiger Army in Corporal, the name of that track. Before that, we heard from Libretta Suede and the Motel 6, Do the Savis, the name of that one. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention we kicked off the program with Wolfbang Blues Creature from the Atom Brain, the name of that track. I do have Nick Kachiri in studio, filmmaker, currently working on a film called American Luchador. Are you a pro wrestling fan, Nick?
Yeah, I am. I've been a pro wrestling fan since I was a kid. Growing up, as I said, growing up in the early 80s, the mid 80s, that was sort of the heyday of the Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage and Andre the Giant. And, being a kid there, they were, larger than life. And it was something, my dad and we would watch it on Saturdays and watch all the big matches. And then, as I got older, in the late 90s, I got into sort of the WWE Attitude Era with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then, like many things in life, you kind of get away from it for a while. And then it wasn't really till my son a couple years ago, who is now 13. Happy birthday, Ben. It's his birthday today. He got it started. I don't even know how he got into wrestling, but sort of started getting into wrestling. So, of course, as a parent, you kind of get back into it. And so, the last couple of years sort of had a revival of pro wrestling. And then a couple of years ago, I started discovering sort of the independent wrestling scene around here, and getting into that and going to the shows and getting getting to know some of those guys, and really they're interesting. These indie wrestlers, these guys who go out weekend after weekend and do this for more or less just for their love and enjoyment of it.
They drive 500 miles in the middle of winter on icy roads for the possibility of like a $50 payout.
Yeah, and $50 would be a good one, actually. Yep. But I can relate to them just like as a filmmaker, or maybe somebody who's a musician, and you have your job during the week, and this is your passion. For me, it's I have a job, but I have this passion for filmmaking. Other people, it's music, and these guys, it's wrestling, and they're following their passion and they're getting in there, and I have a lot of respect for these guys.
That's kind of the way I am with radio, except for the fact that I don't have to go in beat up and sore on Monday. Well, sometimes I go in beat up on sore on Monday morning, depending on who we have in studio. But it's as far as that profession being the passion, it is. I give those guys the utmost credit. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of other things. There's all these guys out there, and they're doing it, and some of them might make it, to the top, to the WWE, but who knows? And right. The majority of them aren't going to. And it's not because they're not talented or anything, but, the WWE is like anything, like if you're talking about mainstream music or whatever, guys don't have the right look. They don't have the right this, the right that, so it has nothing to do with their abilities. It just, so they get in there week after week. And
if you do the mathematical odds, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, chances are it ain't going to happen.
No, absolutely. And actually, there was an article I read online now that the WWE apparently now is getting away from the indie wrestlers. There's a few guys who have made it through, who are successful in the indie circuit and have success in WWE, guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. But now the WWE, they have their own little school, and they're just sort of taking guys and molding what they want for their product. So, the guys on the indie circuit, the WWE, as you just said, that number was small to begin with. Now that percentage is even smaller because they're just putting out their own product. So again, just getting back to these guys that are just out there for the love of it, and just,
The film The Wrestler kind of really exposed that lifestyle a few years back. And I remember when it was pretty, in this region at least, pretty dark days for independent wrestling. There really were only a few organizations, and then it slowly built up, and Of course, YouTube became more available for folks to just put their kind of best of out there.
Sure.
But it is like music. I mean, these people, they love and they swear by what they do.
Absolutely. And The Wrestler, that was a really good movie, and it was really well done. And there's a scene in there where Mickey Rourke's character, he's at a little signing show, and there's the sort of older guys there that are behind their table, with these pictures, and they're old, and they're and I could relate to that because when I used to do the comic book circuit,
right,
the guys from the 50s and the 60s who didn't have they didn't get the royalties and stuff that guys now do. So there's all these guys that be in their 60s or 70s or 80s, making their rounds of these autograph shows because they just, they weren't paid back then, and they didn't have the royalties or anything like that. So when I saw the movie, I was like, I've seen these guys, and these guys who are there, and they're just trying to, they're trying to survive, and and these are guys who really kind of paved the way for what we're doing today.
Having the behind the scene look like I have had of some of these conventions and some of the horror conventions and whatnot. There is some folks who just, you can tell they do not want to be there. They want to get their $5 autographs, get something to eat, and it's almost like seeing the sad elephant at the circus.
I know. I have a picture of myself and my son, and I mentioned Star Wars earlier, and the great Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca, and it was great for me to meet him and everything. But in the picture, I feel terrible because when I looked at the picture, the look on Peter Mayhew's face, like, oh my God, I have to take one more picture. It's like you feel bad.
At Rhode Island Comic Con, I was doing my little booth, hanging out, and I hear flap in someone plopping into a chair behind me, and George from Providence Night Out was there, and Megan from Colorblind was there. We kind of all had this table together. So the three of us turned around and we heard this flap, and it was Danny Glover. And Danny Glover just wanted a break. He just wanted to sit down and maybe have a bottle of water. And of course, the second that Danny Glover sat down, everybody ran over towards him.
Sure,
man, that's going to be a rough lifestyle. Although more than one person in that scene, whether it be wrestler or horror film actor or B movie star, have told me, and I quote, "It beats working for a living." I'm going to spin some more tunes. We'll get into the meat and bones of American Luchador. But before that, we have some great local music queued up. It's The Benedictions off of the album Play Devil Music. They perform this track live in studio. It's This Old River.
see. You're gonna ride away like that river in a parade of tears and scars. Oh, it's gonna take you away to stay. Oh, the river casts a net of stars. You're gonna ride away like that river in a parade of tears and scars. Oh, it's gonna take you away to stay. Oh, the river casts a net of stars. Oh, the river casts a net of stars.
Sweat under moonlight,
and I washed all my knives in a bucket of film,
sinking to Daddy's armchair and listen to the knocking on the floorboards. Oh, what have I done? Oh, what have I done? What have I done? Oh, what have I done?
the mess I made.
What have I done?
The mess I made.
What have I done? Inside of I don't know if I can get out. Wanna see in front of me as open wide this time, this time, this time. It's early somewhere, but not in this room. It's soothing inside, avoid impending doom. And a taste for blood.
And I think I'll settle for a vow.
What have I done?
So they won't find
What have I done?
those insides out.
What have I done?
What have I done?
What have I done?
They slowly sank
What have I done?
to tops of skull.
What have I done? Inside of I don't know if I can get it out. Wanna see from me as open wide this time, this time, this time.
Some Roz Raskin and the Rice Cakes right here on the Tony Jones Show. TonyJones.org is my website, rifreeradio.org. Before that was Floorboards, Roz Raskin and the Rice Cakes. Before that, we heard from the Benedictions off of Play Devil Music, This Old River. Some fine local music, back-to-back music you're not going to hear anywhere else but here on the Tony Jones Show. Play Devil Music, the name of that album, and I'm sure every musician out there, especially if they've been in a punk band or a heavy metal band, has been accused of playing devil music, or the best, when I was a kid, the older Italian folks would say, you play that kill your mother, kill your father music, don't you? We do have filmmaker Nick Kachuri in studio, currently working on American Luchador, and I would be remiss, Nick, if I didn't mention to all of Tony Jones Nation out there that you have an Indiegogo campaign going on.
We do.
Talk a little bit about that and crowdfunding. How has it worked for you? Do you support it? And things of that nature.
Well, crowdfunding in general, it's sort of come about the past couple of years. I had been involved with one other one a couple years ago, a film that I produced that was written and directed by a friend of mine, Evan Hatton. The film was called The Fishbowl, and I was a producer on it. And we did a Kickstarter on that. We used Kickstarter at the time. We had some success. We needed a small budget, and it worked. So when American Luchador came about, the problem with indie filmmaking, much like I'm sure independent musicians, is money. We need money to do things.
Right, like we talked about earlier, you're waking up and going to work on Monday morning after a weekend of filming, right?
That's right. That's right. So, we kicked around some ideas about how we were going to raise some funds. And, one thing we thought, well, let's, try the crowdsourcing thing. We've raised a little bit of money. It hasn't really had the success we wanted to. I think the problem with crowdsourcing is there's just so much out there. There is so much competition. Just at the same time that our campaign was going on for American Luchador, there were two other local productions in Rhode Island from other filmmakers that also had Indiegogo campaigns at the same time. So, we're all sort of, asking for that same dollar from that same person, and where do people want to put their money? Also, I think we, with the time of year and towards the end of the year and the holidays, so it hasn't had a whole lot of success. We've raised a little bit of money that way. We're exploring some other fundraising options to put our budget together. But when we decided to do the crowdsourcing, we filmed a teaser for American Luchador, kind of give people an idea of what the film would look like, kind of the vibe of the film, if you will. We put that up there. It's about a minute long. We put our little pitch video as well. And, we've got a lot of positive feedback from the teaser. People like it and they like what they see. It hasn't quite translated into the dollar contributions we've wanted, but we'll make it work.
Now, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I am a crowdfunding maniac. I just take my money, But the issue is, too, I've noticed on some of the crowdfunding sites, as someone who is looking to fund, if I see American Luchador listed next to a 10-year-old kid that has cancer, guess who's getting my money? The
10-year-old kid with cancer would get my money as well.
Yeah, there is just a ton of kind of white noise that's coming out from crowdfunding.
It is, and I think the rise of social media and everything, where people have just access to everyone, and it's become something like that. You'll see things all the time, like you said, the 10-year-old with cancer, or so and so is a veteran and his house needs repair, and and how do you say no to those things? And me, how do I compete with that? How do I say, oh, well, I want to make a silly little movie? Who cares about the guy who needs a new roof for his house? I want to make a movie.
These are luchadors, people.
So, but if nothing else, even if it doesn't translate into the dollars, if nothing else, if it gives us, a little more visibility, if a few more people sort of hear American Luchador, and maybe will kind of, give us a little bigger audience, then it was worth it.
And it is just some good old-fashioned American free market capitalism, too, because you do have these people that put up an Indiegogo campaign or any kind of crowdfunding campaign, and they lament that they didn't become a millionaire off of it when they didn't really do much to promote it. They just kind of put it up there.
Sure.
And kind of sat back. And then you have people that, for lack of a better term, pimp out their crowdsourcing efforts. I mean, you can't blink your eyes without seeing it. I've noticed those are the people who are hitting fully funded, and I mean they just really put it out there. And if it's something that you believe in, they aren't really too shy about, like I said, pimping that. just totally pimping that effort out.
Sometimes that's what you need to do. You need to make people aware and show them what you're what you're capable of. There was one that I saw the other day. Have you seen this Kickstarter for this Kung Fury?
No.
Oh my God. It is like the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's this completely like 80s, action movie. This guy from Sweden is doing it all on a green screen, and it's amazing. And if you look at the numbers that he's well over what he's asking for. But if you watch his trailer, it's phenomenal. It's fantastic.
Now, I'm wondering how you feel, because I haven't really developed how I feel about this. How do you feel about multi-platinum artists or major filmmakers, major musicians also turning to crowdfunding? It seems to me like I think that should be for the quote-unquote little guy, but you see these... I mean, big Salt Lake City Punk 2, for instance, is out there with an Indiegogo campaign, and you see these multi-selling $1 million mansion-living artists asking for crowdfunding.
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen a few of actors, well-known actors, been on television, been in movies, and they're making their own independent film, and they're on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever.
On, man.
And it's like, exactly. It's like, really? Really? Don't you have any residuals from that television show you were on that you could throw towards your project and leave that sort of crowdsourcing for us little guys who don't have those?
Like, dude, why don't you give me $25?
Exactly. Or someone with that track record of success in the industry, whether we're talking about music or entertainment or movies, it seems they would have more avenues.
Yeah. They can land the angel investor, something along those lines.
And so it is sort of, but what are you going to do? You can't fight it. It's, you just kind of have to put your thing out there and hope that you reach somebody.
Hope for the best and pimp it out there, baby. I'm going to spin some X now, and then when we come back, I'm going to ask Nick for the American Luchador synopsis and pitch and what's coming up down the line. He has a live event coming up down in my neck of the woods. So we'll get to that, but first I have some X going out by request, and as we freeze and pick ice off of things, we are wishing for the 4th of July.